Well, good morning, fellow stampers. It's Stamping Fun Time with Gail. Today I'm going to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to try to do 3 videos, so it'll be a little bit lengthy, and I apologize for that up front. But I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and this is the first card we're going to be making. If you haven't tried this cork paper, I absolutely love it. But we're going to get started, and I'm going to tell you everything you'll need and how I did it. This is a piece of Early Espresso. I scored it at 5.5 and 4 1/4. This is very vanilla, and this is 4 by 4. It's a square, and it's going to fit right in there like this. The cork is also cut 4 by 4, and I stamped with Early Espresso ink. This is 1 by 4. I think it's also 4. Let me see, I forgot. Yes, and it's 1 inch by 4. Then I stamped this and I colored it with the light and dark Stampin' Blends and the pumpkin pie, the light and dark suede, and the light and dark old olive. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with this, and I'll kind of explain things as we go along. So first of all, excuse me, I think we're going to work on the front, and we're going to start with our 1 piece of by 4 of our cork paper. And y'all, this stuff is truly magnificent. So what I did is I took the Faux Suede in the Early Espresso. It's on our annual catalog, and I absolutely love this stuff. It is just wonderful. And I put a little glue dot, and I have my 2 on the side to help it stick down. And I just put it down in the center, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to adhere this to where I want it on the top, and I hope you can see this. I apologize if my head gets in the way. I'm trying hard not to, but I'm not always successful, and my video man, my husband, is gone today, so I'm having to do this alone, so I hope I don't mess anything up too terribly bad for you, which is why you have no video of my face, and who knows, that could be a blessing. So I just kind of bring it down tight, and then I just whirl this around and I put it down, and it stays actually pretty good. So I was pretty happy with that. Then I went to my old favorite, and I did my cork paper in the multi-purpose glue, because that is, like I said, my most favorite of all. And I centered that in just this part right here. And I almost dropped it, and I did leave a little bit of a glue mark, so we're going to take that up with our finger. I was going to tell you something. If you get a little bit of glue mark and you can't get it off, or you don't want to rip your paper using your adhesive remover, if you just put a little bit of embossing powder on there, it takes the sticky away. Okay, so before we get any further, I'm going to put glue all over this, and we're going to close it together. I'm going to adhere that down. And then we're going to take whatever I just did with the pumpkin. And I did put dimensionals on it. I did 4. It might be a little bit more than we need, but I want to make sure it pops up. So on this particular stamp set, which I failed to tell you is Pretty Pumpkins, and it comes with these dies, and we use that die, and we also use the leaf die. So I'm going to show you the leaf die, and then I'm going to show you how I did it. So, and I know it's a pumpkin leaf, but I just thought it just was too pretty, needed some fall color on it. So I took 1 glue dot and put it on the back of that, and just kind of lapped it over a little bit, pressing those together. And then I took 1 glue dot, and I made sure that it crossed over both of them, and I just put it down here by the same. Now before we put this in, I was going to show you how I went ahead and I did the leaf. I took, and I'm only using a small one because I'm only doing a couple of leaves to show you, But I took some of our re-inkers and I just did a little bit of dropping around. Get that out of the way so I don't spill it. And so this is some cherry cobbler. And I just kind of dropped it around in a few places. And then I did some crushed curry because I thought it was looked more fall than even the Daffodil Delight. I put a little bit of Cajun Craze in there. A little bit of Old Olive. And just a tad of rich raspberry, but I did put some rich raspberry in it. Now, you kind of let those blend together. And I didn't bring a block over, just one second. Okay. So when I did this, the one thing you want to remember is wherever you stamp it, if you want them to look alike, you need to stamp them alike. And I'm just going to do it on a piece of copy paper right now because I didn't bring over a scrap, not thinking. So we're just going to and I just think it turns out so pretty. Clean that off. I'm going to go in a different spot. And it's just so pretty. They just turn out so nice. Anyway, so that's how I did that. And I thought you might like to know. So now we're going to, oops, we are going to need that. So now I'm going to clean that off again in all the colors. And I'm going to stamp this on the inside right there. And I'm going to stamp it on the other side right there. And there you have it. Fall leaves and pumpkins, and what it says on it is, "So thankful for you." This is all in the same set, and it says, "If friends were pumpkins, I'd pick you." So we're going to adhere this into the card. And there is our first card. So we'll set that aside. And on to the next card. Put that aside. Okay, our next card is the log cabin. And I actually took this from Facebook Live or Pinterest, I don't remember which. Amy Kay, I don't know her last name. She just became one of our more recent $1 Million Sales Lady to career date. And she did a phenomenal job. And really the only thing I changed was the inside, and I put some rhinestones on it. So this is her card, and I just added some rhinestones. And then inside she stamped, and I just did a little Christmas border. So we're going to get started on that. So what we used was the Peaceful Cabin and its matching dies. And there are so many dies in this. There's a little fox, there's trees. It's just cute, 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 a little fence that you did see. So we're going to move that over here. And so this is your standard basic black, which is your 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. But we're going to do it portrait rather than landscape. Or no, landscape rather than portrait. Anyway, so the next thing I did is I took some silver paper and I cut that at about 4 7/8 by about 3 1/2. And then I ran this through the second to the largest rectangle dies. And this is DSP paper. And if you look, you can see, I don't know if the camera shows it or not, but you can see some little silver specks in there. And then we're just going to adhere this. Okay, And I'm going to try to center it as best I can. I sure am hoping that y'all are getting this. I hope I'm not out of line. Now, what I did is I took a piece of 5.5 by 8.5, and I stamped on one end, and I cut this out. I turned it over, stamped on the other end, and cut it out. And this is what I got. And what Amy was saying is you're going to want to kind of move this around until you get it to where you think you want it, and that's where I wanted it. So what I did is I adhered this in dimensionals to the back of this. So let me get these off real quick. She also had a good idea of cutting your dimensionals in half, and that way you don't ever have to worry about your size and where you're going with it. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to line up the two stitched edges, because that's going to be the most important at this point. And when I cut these out, I lined them up the way I wanted them, and I ran both thicknesses through, and it is a little bit of a challenge to get that all on, but I ran them both through at the same time, and that way I could match up my stitches a lot better. Okay. And this is going to go down to the bottom of your designer series paper. So, and then your stitching will pick up again. So another reason I do this is to give me the wiggle room that I want. So there you go. Okay, so I just thought it was really pretty, but I didn't want to leave it just like that. I've got a couple bigger snowflakes, and so that's kind of how I decided how many rhinestones I was going to use. So I'm going to use this one. And I didn't want it to be all alone, so I'll put a couple more on there. I'll use this one. And I'll take another one. Oh, maybe. They are not wanting to cooperate today, and I'm going to put it over here. Okay, so for the inside, this could be a note to somebody or whatever. So for the inside, I just took the leftover designer series paper that I cut off for the sizing, and then I cut about 1/4 inch piece of our silver foil, and I adhered that, and that was my border, and I still have plenty of room to write a little Christmas note or stamp it in there later, Merry Christmas or whatever you might want to use it for. Could be a thinking of you, warm wishes, whatever. And this piece is your standard 4 by 5 1/4. The gray strip was about, not quite a half, I think it was 3/8 of an inch. Maybe it was half. Well, I can't see it. Yes, it's right. It's like a 16th below being a half. So there it is. That's our second one, and I hope you enjoyed that one. So let's get on to our third card and see how we're doing. Okay, and for the first card we did, I forgot to give kudos to my upline, Cheryl Sorensen, excuse me. She is dynamite. I just love seeing her and being with her, and she is so creative, and she gave me that idea. And one of the ladies that's in our team made this Christmas card, and I absolutely loved it, and so I copied it as well. Cheryl's is a different card front, but it was the same idea. So let me explain some of what we did here. Okay, this is going to be your envelope that we stamped with the little tree and a little one in the back, so that's not necessarily anything that's major to you. This is the Whimsical stamp set and dies that we used, and this is the trick. We're using a standard 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4. The inside is 4 1/4 by 5. I rounded off the opposite corners. I stopped, may love you, may the love of the season warm your home and fill your heart. And I did that in the Soft Succulent, and then the Evening Evergreen for the little tree, and the paper is, of course, the Evening Evergreen. Then I took a 4 1/4 piece of Soft Succulent, and I cut it out, and that's going to be our top. But then right under that, I did, and this is the chart, so I wanted to show it to you, maybe give you a minute if you need to see it. But this is how we made it. This goes with this, and it cuts it, so it gives you the diagram. You're cutting, this is 1 1/2, and then so I cut this whole strip, and I did it twice for the two different. So you have your 1 1/2 by 2, and then you have your 1 1/2 by 3 1/4. That's those two. Then I cut the top, and this is a 2 1/2 inch strip all the way down, and I cut it at 3, and then again at 2 1/4. So I'm going to show you how we place that so you can kind of get an idea, even though I've done it on that card. But so this is our 2 1/2 side, and that's our 3, and then this is the 1 1/2, and this is the tree. Now you can also flip any one of these over because they would work out just the same. And I forgot to trim that one down, so it's still a little bit long. But anyway, so you could flip it like this and flip it like this, and you have all sorts of different ones. So this is all, oh, what is it? It's in the annual catalog. Something Tidings. Here it is. It's Tidings of Christmas. Y'all, this paper is beautiful. This is my 3rd package. I love it. So we're going to go ahead now that we've done all of this, and we're just going to adhere it, and we're going to put it on the front of the card. And Margie, I never remember how to say her last name. Veslesky is who did this one, and I just love her to pieces. She is so talented and so creative. She and Cheryl both just make my day. And then it fits just a tiny little border on your Evening Evergreen. So I cut out the Christmas tree, and I did that in the Tidings of Christmas. So this is just designer series paper, but it was just beautiful. And so we're going to adhere that. But first of all, I did the framelit was the swirls, and I did that in some of our silver glimmer paper. So I'm going to adhere that real quick. And I'm just kind of trying to tap the sides a little bit until we get down in here. It gets a little bigger. I have to tap a couple more times. But so are y'all ready with Christmas? Do you have your gifts purchasing? Are you making your cards? Are you making your craft gifts? I'm like so way behind. And I want to be done because my son lives in Australia. He and his family, they work there. He works there, and I so badly want it done so that when they come home early, I'll get to see him. And then their oldest son is getting married, and so we have a lot in December to keep us busy and a lot to celebrate. And I got enough glue on my hands, it's wanting to stick to my glue instead of to the paper. Or it's wanting to stick to my fingers instead of the paper. I may have to do a little dot. Oops, that seems like it took hold. Okay, and then I also went ahead and I put this up on dimensionals. And I didn't realize I was that far down on mine. And I could have used a mini one, but I just had these right here, so I thought, why not? Okay, put this off to the side. And then I cut out the season's greetings, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which stamp set I got this from, but it'll be down in my list below of all the dimensions for everything. And I cut it out after I stamped it in the So Saffron, and I took our smallest rectangular die, the stitch die, and I put that on there. This I just adhered straight to the Evening Evergreen. And then I put it on with dimensionals, and here I will use the mini. It's just easier to grab them. And again, I did 4 because I want to make sure it's going to stay really, really well. I just kind of decided where I wanted it, and I think that looks pretty good. Then I took some of our epoxy stars that we had in the silver and the gold, and I put it at the top of the tree. Well, kind of. There you go. Anyway, and then so here you are, what I stamped, and your little envelope that we made to go with it. So these are our 3 cards. I hope you like them. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I do read them and I do respond to them. If you don't have a demonstrator, I would love to earn your business. If you want to shop in my store, you can go to my online store, which is gaildavenport.stampinup.net. I thank you so much for your patience and for watching this. I hope you have a blessed day. And I will have the description below for everything that I use that you may need. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.